Welcome back to Fish's Call Sheet. This show originally launched during the pandemic for me to highlight the amazing people who work behind the scenes in production. It has been my mission to make sure that we understand that everybody on set has a talent and that we celebrate it. And so this show began that way, and then we took a little break. So we're bringing it back, and I thought the best way to introduce it to new people and to kind of revamp this and make sure people get a feel for it was to put myself in the hot seat, since I've worn so many hats along the way and worked in almost every department in production other than hair and makeup and wardrobe, because I would butcher both of those, so it's for everyone's safety. So I have my business partner and fellow writer, fellow producer, Michael Johnson, here with me. So Michael's going to kind of interview me, but I'm going to try and flip it around on him. He didn't know that part. So.
I did not agree to that.
Welcome to Fish's Call Sheet.
So this is called Fish's Call Sheet.
Yeah.
Why call sheet?
So a call sheet is the basic piece of paper that they give out, kind of like you'll get the call sheet for tomorrow at the end of the day. The call sheet has everybody who's listed in production who's going to work the next day, usually on one side, and then the other side has kind of the order of what's happening or what the key scenes and things that are going to occur that day. So one side is kind of more of a schedule, the other side is more of kind of like the cast and crew list, and it's kind of the universal thing in our business, so I thought it was the best way to include everyone.
How do you like to be introduced? I mean, you're an actor, you're a producer, director, writer. Do you use all of them, or do you have a preference?
I don't ever use any of my titles. I have this belief that if I have to explain my resume or my title to somebody, it's not relevant to them. Part of that comes from, it's not so much egalitarianism, but it's more about like, I'll earn it. So I don't really need people to know what my titles are. In this business, it kind of hurts me at times because it's just not my nature to self-promote. But I also, a lot of times, am working back and forth between multiple titles on a single project. And unfortunately, most people, I think this is true for everybody in the world, is people always come up to you and say, hey, what do you do? Or, what's your job? And it's their way of kind of classifying you. And in this show, I don't want to classify people as much as I want to highlight and celebrate them. So I do share people's titles, but more than anything, I share people's experiences.
I'm going to say, from someone who's lived in quite a few different cities, the what's your name, what do you do is more LA than other places, I would have to say. But we can get into that later. So let me ask, revamping this podcast, well, actually, yeah, I guess it was a podcast. It was just done on video before of the pandemic. Why now did you decide to do this?
Well, in the first iteration, it was almost all Zoom. I think every interview was probably Zoom. The ability to be in studio and connect like this. I love sitting across from people and connecting with people. I just feel like the connection is deeper a lot of times. But also, the business is in a very interesting place. Depending on what stats you read, it's anywhere from 40 to 60% that the business is down production-wise. And I think that means we're losing a lot of really amazing people. And the other part is a lot of the people I grew up with, because I was kind of the joke at ABC is I was the youngest dinosaur. I've been around forever, but I was super young when I started. A lot of people are aging out, and no one has ever told their story or shared what their real experience was. And there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes. You can interview 1,000 people with the same job, but every project is different and their experience is different. And I think for people who love behind the scenes and who love this business, or anybody who just likes what really interesting people do for a living and like how it shaped their lives, this show is for them. So
you've been at this for a while. Let's just put it that way.
That's 38, almost 39 years.
It's a minute. Part, I think, of this is it's informative so people understand there are other jobs other than being in front of the camera. What is your hope that people will get out from, will take away from this call sheet?
Well, I think everybody knows what an actor, or thinks they know what an actor is. But the reality is people don't realize there are hundreds or thousands of people on every set. And each one of those roles changes and shapes what a production becomes. And there's a big difference. There's like probably 27 different types of producers. There's a million different kinds of writers. But also just in each of the crew areas, whether it be, the electrical or lighting, right? there's a gaffer, and then there's a best boy, and there's all these things. There's grips where there's a best boy sometimes, and like all of these different areas have their own structures, but they change also between whether it be film or television or multi-camera or single camera. So there's so much variation that I don't think the world sees, but also for young people who look at this business and may want to come into it. Not everybody's built to be an actor, right? But you may love film and television, and you may think you want to be a writer or a director or producer, but you may find out that you love cameras. You may be the person who likes to be the, almost in the Shawshank Redemption sense of like being the red, the guy who can get something for everybody, which is how I describe most prop masters. Maybe that's your thing. You like being the problem solver and the person who makes cool things. Maybe you fabricate things. Maybe you're a person who at home is a designer by trade. I did most of my fabrication work as a prop person and a set decorator. I built a lot of stuff from scratch, and we turned things into things. I made a lot of things out of foam with paint, and I used other skills in carpentry to make a lot of props, to make things that otherwise wouldn't have occurred. I think people don't realize how many creative aspects there are to this business and just what incredibly artistic mastery goes into them. And I just want to celebrate people. The crew are the people who shape me in so many ways, and most people don't know who they are.
You talk about you've built stuff, and I don't think people quite understand your entire background, whether it's the jobs that you've had, but in particular, you're talking about building sets. Mm-hmm. I grew up watching sports science.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I was already older, but at any rate.
Yeah, you're trying to make me real old real fast. This is what a friend does. Totally sells you out.
I got 10 years on you, so we're good there.
Don't tell everybody. Looks fantastic, people.
So talk about sports science for a second, because I think it's quite interesting, and it gives a different perspective into who you are.
So yeah, sports science is really interesting because I've been a fabricator on the prop side and the set decorating side, but I also was a set builder for, about 15 years. That was primarily what I did to pay for my kids and to support a family. I was a carpenter for years. But on sports science, I built everything, not only that every test that we tested athletes, but every set, every structure, all of that stuff. So what we had an entire, essentially, an airport hangar at Hawthorne. We had two. I had my lab, which we called the mad scientist place, where I literally tested athletes one-on-one, and I had a whole series of tests that I took every athlete through, because I still think there's a show there. I couldn't explain it to the producers because most of them were non-sports people, but anybody who's ever been an athlete understands the comparison aspect of it, and to be able to see it across multiple sports so you really have a context of how athletes interact and compare, I thought was super valuable. I just didn't have people I could totally pitch that idea all the way through. On the building side, I was building sets. We built half a football field. We built basketball courts, but weekly I was building new things to test athletes in real time. And I was interacting with world-renowned, college professors and specialists in movement and kinesiology and biomechanics, and largely they would send me a box of pieces and parts, and then I would have to either build something to put those pieces in or find a way to do a test. So for example, say it's football and we want to do a linebacker. I would want to know what is the impact that a linebacker has and how much force per square inch and how much impacts may be higher versus lower, and all of these ways of analyzing how much force is being delivered to a running back or receiver when they hit them. Or with a receiver, what is the grip strength, what is the receiving portion of that, and then also how fast are they braking and how fast are they accelerating and decelerating and things like that. So I was, as a sports guy, it was kind of a kid in a candy store. I was designing everything, but a lot of it was last minute, and so I like to be the problem-solving guy on set. I like to be a solution-based person. So as a collaborator, the world doesn't really know, but that's, I was nominated for an Emmy for that portion of my work. So my Emmy nominations, I grew up working on Roseanne and The Conners, and my Emmy nominations are for set construction and production design and props and set dressing.
When you say you're a sports guy, mm-hmm. So what does that, like, people have a concept, oh, he likes watching sports. Maybe he played a sport. Tell the people, like, what is your sports guy?
So Michael's outing me as my friend because Michael and I met playing adult softball.
True.
And so this is actually the beginning of kind of us meeting each other and then becoming business partners and writing partners. And so they'll hear Michael's name and they'll see you, but they'll more hear your name and hear you because you're in the room for every one of these interviews. I was a baseball player. I grew up playing baseball. I grew up around adults, so I always had to compete with adults. I was a late bloomer. High school, I couldn't play high school sports because I was in an after-school arts program that restricted that. And then I moved around in high school and played a little bit of high school ball. And when I settled to be a baseball player, I was the missing piece on this is, I don't know how I say this without getting in trouble other than to say, I went to an elite high school that basically went and recruited a lot of people. And I was supposed to be the speed leadoff hitter to fill out a roster so we could win a state championship. And instead, I started, and then I had my brother kind of got lost at school, and I stepped in to raise him. And then I played independent ball. So I went down to Mexico, and then I played here, and I played with a Japanese team. So I've been around baseball forever. For 26 years, I was a coach. I've coached everything in high school sports. You can probably imagine every sport, but my primary were baseball and softball. So Michael knows me kind of as an athlete. So for people who don't know, I was good. I was a very good athlete. I was a fast athlete.
You know, I think it's important, I think, that people understand that, because you and I approach things from an ideal of teamwork, sports. How is that kind of formulated or formed the way that you work?
Yeah, I mean, especially being a coach, I think all those years of coaching made me a better director. Working in every department made me a better director and a producer. And being the guy who's been the feet on the ground, the person whose body was on the line, both as an athlete and as a production person, it gives me perspective that I think changes the dynamic. A lot of actors, your body's on the line a little bit, but you've never really done a lot of stunts or built things or had to be the physical person. And I say this with all the respect to actors, you're usually the last one to show up and the first one to get to go home. I've been the first guy in the building and the last guy to go home. So I build everything as a teammate. Collaboration is huge to me. I'm a let's put in the work, let's do the drills, let's work on whatever it takes to become great, and then let's get better each and every time. And then also as a teammate, I love to build an environment to watch other people shine. And I think that's a big part of what we build production-wise. And it goes into our writing because, we write together. And that process starts with us pitching to each other. If we can't get it past each other, then we don't write the project yet. We have to kind of sell it to each other. So we're constantly doing a bit of an impartial pitch process. Then when the project starts and we go to work on it, we have no sensitivity about changing and adjusting or critiquing or being putting it through the paces and doing the detail work to make something great. And all of that, I think, comes from a sports background of being a teammate and understanding that you can do everything right, but it doesn't necessarily mean everything comes out that way. And then the relentlessness of being willing to keep going back and training and getting better and sharper and learning to be a good teammate. Because production is all about hundreds or thousands of people working collaboratively for one beautiful piece of art. And I think when I'm an actor, the best part of that is I get to reap the benefits of everybody's work. So part of this show is I want people to see what people do, and I want to celebrate what people do, but also as a collaborator. I love listening to how other people build their things or make things, because I'm always seeking to be a better version of me.
Years ago, we were talking, you said, I have a list.
Yeah.
What is this list that you keep? And is it physical or is it just a mental list?
It's both. I have a list, and when I talk about the list, I kind of have my own call sheet. Since I was 6 years old, they give you a cast and crew list. Every year they start the year, and usually somewhere in the middle of the year and at the end of the year, they give you the cast and crew list depending on if people have changed. Since I was 6 years old, I've been keeping track of the cast and crew list, and I've been circling names and making notes, not just what people did, but what I could see them doing or where I thought they would be great. So I've had a list of people I want to work with and the people that I want to, what people do. people didn't realize the 6-year-old who was standing in the corner, and that very much is, that's the entertainment industry. The PA that you see right now who is the grunt could end up being the showrunner or the producer on the next thing, could sell the next project. Those people have great ideas. So part of it is I've been watching everyone my whole life. So for all the years working in production, I circle names, I keep track of people's contact stuff. I got a list of people to work with and a list of projects I want to do.
This is Fish's call sheet.
Yeah.
And you've made an effort to separate out who on the call sheet, in the sense of you don't want actors typically to come on Fish's call sheet. Why is that?
I'm not opposed to actors in a sense, but I want actors who do other things. If you come to Fish's call sheet, everybody interviews the actors. Everybody celebrates actors. You get to stand out front. We get plenty of attention as an actor. I mean, it's hard enough for me. It's not my style to even have, like, Fish's call sheet was hard enough for me even to put my name out front, because that's just not the way I'm built. Like, even when we write projects, I don't write projects for me, the actor. You and I write projects that are great stories that we feel compelled to tell. And if there's a spot in there where I might fit in, that's great. That's a bonus or that. And a lot of times we've started projects and there's nothing for me in it. And then all of a sudden somewhere along the way, I'm like, oh, I might like that. And a lot of them are side parts or small parts. This show is designed to celebrate crew members. And I want people in production to see themselves, but I also want to celebrate them. We don't realize how many beautiful technicians and artists and talents are right behind the camera. And we see their names scrolling. And I've said this many times on set, and so it's kind of a good opportunity. If you're seeing this and you're a crew member, you and I, our names live next to each other for eternity. And it really matters to me that you understand that I don't see myself as better than you. I see myself as a more public person who shares the credits with you. People know my face. I have the advantage that people see my name with my face. But that doesn't make me any more valuable than you. And part of this is I want people to hear you and see you and celebrate you. So if you're a crew member that has a story to share, come share it, because this is about the call sheet and everybody who makes production possible.
So what draws you into this business? I mean, you started at your 6, and then we won't go into everything.
Yeah.
You went away for a while, you came back, you've done a bunch of stuff behind the scenes. What is it about this business that keeps drawing you in?
Well, I would tell you, I mean, there were times I moved away from this business because it's inconsistent and chaotic, and like it's hard. Like, it's a legit, but also it's the most beautiful business in the world when we do it right. I think more than anything is I love making things, and I love making things with creative people. And I love that what we make impacts other people. And I think there are very few things in life where you get to do something you love and have it connect with other people. And I think that's the thing that always brought me back. And there clearly wasn't, like, from a fate or faith or however someone wants to put it, every time I moved out of this business, I would get a job that brought me back. Like, I mean, I literally left town multiple times and, like, got a job that brought me right back. Like, there is a part of this I realized as I started trying to do all these really logical jobs where, like, I don't fit in a cubicle. I don't necessarily fit in the 9 to 5. And in a world where a lot of people struggle with, like, change and the unpredictable, I thrive in it. And, like, I love every day on set. This is something that the world doesn't realize. Every day on set for me is a good day, even when things are hard. I love set. I love being an actor. I don't want anybody to ever misunderstand. Like, acting will always be something I love, and I will try to do it for the rest of my life, all the way till my final days. But I'm limited as an actor because I'm limited by my age. Like, I can never play that 6-year-old I played in the past. I can't go back to that. I have to be where I am now or going forward. But as a writer, as a producer, as a director, I can create something that is timeless or ageless, and I can create an environment for other people to shine, and that's really what I love about it.
What do you think is what drew you to becoming a director?
I think everybody who was around me kind of knew. I mean, if you watch the old Roseanne, at the end, DJ is interested in being a director,
sure.
And that there's that weird line of, like, life imitating art. and which one is which, because between that and the part where DJ gives Dan CPR, those are both things that came out of my life. Everybody kind of expected me to be a director. It actually just took a lot longer because I had to earn it the hard way. I had to go through all the channels. And then even when I had kind of earned it, there were setbacks and things that got in the way. And at the time, and this is what I would tell people, it feels like rejection or it feels like setbacks. I was learning new skills that made me a better leader. And when you get in that role, a lot of times you only get one real shot at these things. And I actually am really thankful for it because I feel like I was better suited to be successful. And the more people tried to make it challenging, the more I feel like I excel. And it's the coach in me. Like as a director, my job is to build an environment for people to be their best and to make people feel safe enough that they can be daring and bold and challenge things. Having been on both sides, I have a pretty good feel for what that feels like. And there's, I don't think most people can tell you what great acting is. I think most people can tell you what they think bad acting is. And I think when they see it, they're like, oof, man, right? But when it comes to good acting, you just feel it. It just feels right. And it feels like you just know. And part of being a great director is understanding an environment, but also knowing when to stay out of the way or when to stay in a moment long enough or when to just go again, and being able to feel the energy of the people in the room, feel production, understand the rhythm of that so that people can shine. And I think that's one of my strengths. Plus, I'm really good at communicating with people in a positive way and creating an environment where people like to be as opposed to just have to be.
I think people who don't know you, they have a perception of who you are based upon whatever they've seen on screen, social media, whatever that is. Well, we've got a bunch of different projects over a whole variety of different things. How do you explain to people that it makes sense? They're like, hey, he grew up in comedy. What does he know about drama? What does he know about action? How would you tell people, like, how would you explain that?
Well, I think the first thing I would tell people is I'm pretty sure your whole life hasn't been comedy, right? Neither is mine. So I think the people who are the best at comedy often are the people who have faced the worst. Drama and comedy are so close together. And most of the time I'll tell people, and this kind of gives away, I think, a secret of writing, but it's usually not funny to the person experiencing it. It's funny to the world watching it. But if that was your situation, you watched your favorite comedy and you thought to yourself, I'm in that position, that sucks, right? Mm-hmm. The world doesn't realize all the different jobs I've had. You know, we have a law enforcement procedural that we're out pitching that I love. You know, I worked fugitive recovery for like 5 years, right? Like you have a benefit because as my friend, you've watched me do all these very weird jobs. And then when we go to write stuff, part of the pitching process, you're like, where did this come from? And I'm like, oh yeah, back when I did this or that. I've had a lot of lives in kind of a consecutive sense. So I was a rescue diver for like almost 10 years. So there's a lot of first responder stuff that we do that is very natural to me. And when we meet with experts, I'm notorious for you can tell people, like we go in a room with an expert and we start chatting about real stuff and people are like, why am I here? And I'm like, because you're an expert. And they're like, yeah, but so are you. I've just had a lot of life experience. And I think it just makes me a better writer and a better production person. I am going to flip this on you a little bit.
All right.
Okay. Because you have a really unique background. And as a writer, maybe you can share a little bit because people don't know you, and I would love for people to get to know you a little bit.
All right. Well, I mean, back when I was washing cars, you mean? That was my college job.
Yeah.
I'm a former lawyer. I don't know. I used to say I was a recovering lawyer. I mean, I don't know how you want to say it, but I was a lawyer for a while. I started off doing mergers and acquisitions. Then I switched into finance, and then I came to Los Angeles to do film finance. And for all those lawyers out there, I mean, if you love your job, great. I did not. So I was glad to have stepped away from it. My approach, I mean, you're asking about things I've done. So I approach things from a lawyer's perspective in the sense, like I'm glad I went to law school. I'd do it again. If I ever practiced, doesn't matter. It taught you a way of thinking and a way of approaching things. So for me, I'm very methodical. If you tell me you need X done in 4 hours, I will go sit down and I will get it done in 4 hours. I don't have to have anything specific. I don't have to have a chair, a fan, the right pen, nothing.
Listen, right? I'm gonna tell the world, Michael is a machine. And like Michael is in our production, I like to think I'm responsible, but like Michael is the structure part of this. Like in this team, Michael is the crank things out, like structured, like all of the only reason you don't get things that have a bunch of really creative words, but a lot of typos and a lot of misspelling and missed words and like a lot of bad grammar. Michael saves us from all of that. Michael does all the things. This is one of the things I love about being your business partner, is Michael is amazing at all the things I don't love, and he does them with a joy and a willingness that are your things, because it's the way you think about the world.
I'm not sure if it's joy. It just needs to be done. Just cut to the point.
But you do.
But sure.
But we have very different interest levels. It's one of the things, like, when we pitch stuff, we also have, like, I think I am like a ridiculous optimist. How would you describe yourself?
Oh, I'm pretty much a pessimist.
And like
as I call realist.
Yeah, realist. So Michael's the realist, and I am the optimist, right? It creates different characters in our writing, and you can see the tone of things. You write things that I can't write.
Sure.
And I try to write things that I think you don't write. And I think that's one of the things that makes us a great team. And what people don't know is Michael has the wryest sense of humor and is super sarcastic at times, especially when you get to know him. Michael likes to pretend he comes in lawyer mode where he's like serious and quiet. Michael will make you laugh all day long and will knock your socks off with something that you did not expect him to say.
I mean, sure.
He's gonna be mild mannered and diplomatic.
I'll be nice now. Yeah.
You don't have to be nice.
So no, yes, I guess what you're saying is correct. I mean, I prefer to. I mean, I do not. I'm a little uncomfortable in this part.
Yeah.
I prefer to just be behind the scenes. I like to sit back, watch, and observe. That's where I thrive, I guess. So anyway.
You've had a really interesting background because you've moved around a lot. So you have
sure.
a lot of different perspective on different parts of the country and different experiences and different cultural things.
Yeah, I mean, look, my parents divorced when I was 5, I guess. San Diego, Portland. I was in Texas, Northwest Pennsylvania, Arizona, here, and then I've traveled other places too. I've been trying to figure out if I'm going to hit every 50 states. I will at some point, and I've been to, I think I'm down to 10 left maybe. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I can't, there's a couple I say, I was there kind of, but I didn't leave the airport, so it doesn't really count. I at least got to go outside, But anyway, I've been all over.
Because we both have such unique backgrounds. What made you want to write? And maybe you can tell people how we ended up in this teamwork.
Sure. Well, let me back up, because the one thing, if you see our website or something like that, you'll read my background. You're like, what is that? So out here on the West Coast, I get misidentified all the time as to what my background is. East Coast, I think, is pretty much black and white. And by that, I am black and white, right? So, but
out here, you're Puerto Rican.
I get Puerto Rican and Dominican when I'm on the East Coast more so. And then, but it also depends on where it is. I mean, a mutual friend of ours had to convince another friend of ours that I actually was black, because he just like, what? No, he's not.
We've had that in business meetings. I get a little more puffy. I'll be honest. I get a little more puffy chested about protecting your honor. Yeah. You're kind of used to dealing with it. I'm like, hold on, my friend needs to be respected properly.
Well, I mean, going other places I've been, I mean, LA is a melting pot of the melting pot of this United States, right? So here, I think it's a little bit more fluid in what people think or don't even care. You leave outside of here, I know exactly where I'm at. All right, so a friend of mine, she was talking about being a writer, and I would pitch her some ideas. And I'd say, hey, you should do this, you should do this. I think she finally just got annoyed, and she said, where's your computer? I was like, hold on. So I grabbed my computer, and she did something. I was like, what are you doing? She goes, I just gave you a program. I'm like, what's that? She's like, it's Final Draft. I was like, what do I do with it? She's like, figure it out. Like, okay.
And for people who don't know, Final Draft is like the writing program pretty much in the industry.
So I went on YouTube, figured out what are all these things supposed to do. And I think after about, I don't know, I mean, I did some research, whatever, however much time it was, I said, all right, well, I just kind of locked myself away. And the next day I called my friend. I said, hey, how long is, and I was, the idea I had was it's basically a procedural cop show, right? And I said, how long is this supposed to be? She's like, 57 pages. I was like, oh, okay. So I had 19. So now I'm thinking, God, I got to come up with, I basically got to do this 2 more times. Next day, I kept working on it or whatever. 3 days later, I finished. I called my friend and said, hey, I'm done. They're like, done what? I said, I'm done with the 55 pages. Isn't that what you said I needed? And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah. I was like, want to read it? She's like, sure. And I said, all right, it's done. So hand it to her, right? I said, it's perfect. I'm just being a smart ass. It was not. So anyway, she comes back. She's like, okay, make some of these types of changes, do this or whatever. I'm like, okay. So I kind of worked on that. In the meantime, you had called me probably a month before that. And I get this cryptic phone call. And it's like, hey.
I am prone to cryptic phone calls.
Do you know somebody who could look at an entertainment contract for me? Because I can't tell you what it's about, but I just kind of need someone to look it over. And I'm like, yeah, that's not me. I'm not going to do that. But I end up recommending somebody, became your agent. Mm-hmm. Then you go back to production. Was it season 10, right?
Yeah, season 10 of Roseanne.
Season 10, Roseanne. You call me, you say, hey, are you around? Because I wanted to thank you. It all worked out. Let's go to lunch.
Right.
And I'm like, sure. So I had just finished that script, and I was working on an idea for a movie. I was outlining this thing or whatever. So anyway, we talked about it, and I said, hey, would you be interested in looking this over? Or, matter of fact, do you want to be writing partners? And you said no.
Okay, just as a warning. It's not personal. I had horrible experiences with writing partners. I had horrific experiences. I had projects stolen. I had somebody ask me to help them write something. They got mad when I did exactly what they asked me to do and pitched a bunch of stuff and rewrote part of it, and then they went off and made it without me. I had another project that I had a writing partner who sold something to a major network and took my name off of it and sold it without me. So I had my share of experiences. When I worked on Roseanne, I had some scripts and some ideas stolen. So this was a long-term trauma. So the idea of partnering with somebody was terrifying. Sure. And I was like, absolutely not. I've had this experience multiple times. No, thank you. And as my friend, we'd never worked on stuff like that.
Sure.
And here's what I'm going to tell all of you. Michael is the person who is the most honest person and the most dependable person I know. So we started talking about it, and I started pitching you ideas kind of from a distance at first.
Yeah, sure, right.
Like, oh yeah, I like this. What about this? Or here, you could take this. And then it became, we just started talking about it, and I was like, this is stupid. For all of you out there, you got to get over some of your trauma and your drama and like the stuff you've experienced in the past and give good people a chance. We started writing together.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can't even tell you how many things we've put on paper, so it's working, I guess.
Wow. See, that's how I know. That's when I know I'm doing well, is, that's usually the feedback I get. If I get it like, wow, this is cool, then I know I'm like, it's really cool.
Sure. Well, I think what some people may not know is, and I know you've seen it from, going back to the call sheet thing, but actors, their rejection is more of, they didn't get this role for whatever reason. What about for like the writing part?
It's such a weird, because part of it is you go in and you pitch. Mm-hmm. Pitching, I guess it depends on how you look at it. A lot of people think of it like going into the lion's den and like trying to survive. I love the pitching room because I'm always trying to connect with people, and all of it goes into it. I'm trying to reach people. I'm trying to share our idea. I'm trying to promote what we got excited about and share the experience so that people can feel characters. And we've gone up through a bunch of networks and a bunch of stuff where we did all the legwork ourselves and went to the highest levels, and like we've pitched to huge people and made so much progress. I think it's hard for people to understand, but it's really hard as an actor, right? Like when you get rejected, the nice part about a script is it's not you, right? Like as an actor, when you get rejected, like they didn't say no to the character or no to a story. They said no to you, right? And the truth is that feels really personal, but the truth is it's not most of the time. And as you'll see from people who come on as guests, like that you start to learn that more and more when you're on the other side. And then from a writing side, the hardest part for me in the writing thing is just that people keep changing what they want, or that most people keep their job by saying no. And so that's a really tough thing, is because they're gatekeepers that are prone to keep the gate locked. But the truth is everybody's waiting for a great story and a great idea. And I think we've had great success because we've brought people stuff that was really unique and different and very specific. And it's one of the things where people are like, oh, we walk into a room and people make assumptions about both of us for various reasons.
Sure.
There's nothing better than when we walk out and people are like, what else do you have? Can you come back to us and bring us more stuff? That makes me thrilled, because it means we got past their preconceived notion and the work was so good that they want to see more and see what else.
We've got some people in the room here too.
Yeah.
So let me just see if anyone has another question.
Yeah.
And before, because I have a few that I want to
Okay.
wrap into later. Anyone?
So you started as an actor,
Mm-hmm.
but then you went into other folds of entertainment show. Was there ever a moment, if there isn't, I'm throwing it out there because I know, I'm getting to know you, and you've got just story after story, which is just fantastic. Was there a time when you were an actor on set and a construction guy came up to you, or a PA, what are you doing here? Was there ever, in the reverse, was there ever a time where you were a construction guy, on-set guy, actor, celebrities, or what are you doing here, you know?
Yes.
And then, in my experience, there's been a line between crew and actor, I don't know, officer class on a set.
Yeah.
Can you describe that whole world a little bit in a story?
Mm-hmm.
Are there stories of that nature that you can go into? Go.
So there's this very interesting world that we live in where there's a hierarchy. There are terms I refuse to use that the rest of the business uses. There are terms like above the line and below the line, which also come from the call sheet, which for me are horrifying because that's not the way I see the world, right? But I do understand that's how other people see the world. Above the line is usually actors, sometimes the director or certain executives, and below the line is all the crew people. As somebody who's lived on both sides of that line, I've had very unique experiences. There was a stint where I was like, okay, I gotta get in the electrical union. Mm-hmm. Because my kids were growing up, I needed consistent insurance, and it was a battle, right? And one of the guys, CJ, who is just one of the great human beings, he's an electrician in the union forever, both, man, I don't know how many sons and how many grandsons and like nephews, and like he's built a legacy throughout the business. He was like, is this really something you want to do? And I was like, yeah. He's like, okay, well, you don't get a job. You got to go to the shop and be a low-level guy and do all the humping like everybody else. You're going to have to earn it. He said, because people are going to take one look at you and see an actor and not respect you. So I went and took the minimum wage job. I think at the time it was like maybe $5. It was.
You are young.
Yeah, it was bad. This actually isn't as long ago as I wish it was.
I think I made $365.
Just saying. Fair enough. You're telling on you, not me. But so I went to the shop. I worked at AC/DC, and I walked in. He walked me in to meet the guy, and the owner said, he laughed in my face and said, "You won't last 2 weeks." What he didn't understand is I was walking in on someone else's recommendation, and I was never going to fail and let CJ down. So I spent months working at the shop, wrapping cable, what people don't know, there's this thing called Sacco cable, which is like super thick. It's about this thick. It has 5 strands, basically, of all the different, portions of electricity that run through it. Sacco cable has these special pins, and it runs everything from 25 yards to usually 100 yards. A 100-yard Sacco cable probably weighs, I don't know, 150, 200 pounds, maybe more. I spent the first couple weeks, they did everything they could to break me. I took every piece of Sacco cable in the warehouse, and it was my job to take them all out, unwind them, wipe them off by hand, and go over every inch, and then rewind them, re-stack them, and then re-put them on pallets, and then put the pallets back with the forklift. And that's all I did for like 9 or 10 hours a day for months. And it was designed to break me. And I loved it all the more because of it, because the competitor in me like kicked in. And a couple days in, the guy came in and he goes, "Hey, Hollywood." And I'm like, everybody works in Hollywood here, right? And he's like, no, superstar, right? And then all of a sudden, he like outed me to all these other people in this warehouse, which was his social way of trying to get me to quit. So after a couple months, I became the repair guy, and they don't tell you how to repair anything. I literally would take apart one that worked and take apart one that didn't and compare them and keep taking them apart to smaller and smaller pieces till I found the piece that didn't match or the part that was loose. And I became the guy who repaired everything. But I learned how everything worked, which is exactly what CJ wanted for me. And CJ said, when you're ready, someone will show up. He goes, I'm not giving you a job. I'm not getting you a job. Someone will see you work hard enough and you will earn a job. And I was like, okay. And, you know, working a minimum wage job when you have 2 kids and a family and you're the sole income, I had to work another job at night just to make ends meet. But I was never going to let CJ down. So then I started becoming the delivery guy, which took me onto the lot. And there were lots of times where I'd pull up to a gate. People would be like, "Hey, Fish, why are you driving a truck?" Right? And I'd be like, I'm the delivery guy. And they're like, huh? I'd be like, I'm working it. And they'd be like, oh, okay. And then I would go and I'd run into guys I'd worked with for years. And they'd be like, what are you doing? I'm like, it was really fascinating to watch. They almost had more confidence in me as a performer than maybe I did in some ways, because they refused, and sometimes some of those guys refused to, like, a bunch of people were like, don't you dare do this. You should be in front of the camera. Stop that. And other people were like, oh, cool, man. We totally respect it. Get it. Good job. Then one day, CJ walked back into the warehouse when I was in the warehouse, and I watched from across the thing, and I watched CJ come over and point to me, and I watched the owner shake his head and reach into his pocket and hand CJ some cash. So apparently they had a bet, which is probably why the guy was being so hard on me.
Sure.
Watching CJ win was everything to me. I think it tells you something about me as like a teammate and a coworker. It's like that meant everything to me. So I got an offer to go work as an electrician on a show called All Rise, which was a comedy, kind of like Night Court, but it starred Cedric the Entertainer was a judge, and Eddie Griffin played his like brother who was always in trouble with the law. And I was the main spotlight for Cedric because he was dark skin tone in all black. We had to actually spotlight him, but it was a tough job because you can't splash any of the light on the wall. So you have to really be good at it. And all those years ago working in theater, I was a spotlight tech in theater. So I had experience doing it. And I was a couple days short of my union qualifying. The job, I took that job because that job was shifted to union and then was supposed to get me all my days to get me in. And I was days short, and a guy drove up on a golf cart. He said, "Hey, you're Fish, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Do you want to be an actor?" And I was like, "Yes, I still want to be an actor." And he said, "Then you need to quit this right now." And I like did a double take, and he introduced himself. He had been on Leave It to Beaver as one of the friends, never even bothered giving me his name. But he goes, "I went into this because work was slow when I was like a young actor coming up." He said, "And I've made a great career of it, and I love what I do, and I'm proud of the 30 years I spent in the union." He said, "And I'll be doing it till they kick me out." He said, "But they'll never see you as an actor again if you become known for this." And he said, "So you have a decision to make today. Do you want to be a crew electrician forever, or do you want to have a chance to be an actor?" And I said, "I still think I want to be an actor," which was a real admission for me, because I kind of had come to grips with the fact that the business had kind of moved away from me in that area. And he said, then today was your last day. He said, I wish you the best of luck. Shook my hand, drove off. Never even gave me his full name, but he was right. Because I went for the very next thing I auditioned for, and when I walked in, they said, aren't you an electrician? And I was like, funny thing about that is the answer is yeah, I'm a great electrician, right? Like I get it right, and I've run Socko cable for 5 miles. Like I've run stuff uphill and in the rain, and like, yeah, I'm great at what I do, and my job is to be great in every department. But also, people can't always see that, right? And there's a very interesting thing is the one place I do get myself in trouble every once in a while professionally is I don't have a hierarchy. The crew members are equal to me with my castmates and the director and the producers. They're coworkers and they're people. And that's a big part of this show is you'll notice that every time somebody walks in here and we do an interview and every time somebody comes, I treat them all the same and I see them as coworkers. And I'm always going to do it that way because I remember what it was like to be on set and if people refuse to talk to me or have people be really derogatory. On Sports Science, I almost got fired. How do I tell this story without getting completely sued? There was a high-level person, we'll say, who came in one day and was having a terrible day. And they tripped over a cable. Their own fault. All the cables were tied down. Like everything was the way it was supposed to be. And there was another guy bent over building something. And he just kicked the guy because he was frustrated. He was having a rough day. We were behind in schedule. And I crossed a 60-yard airplane hangar. They said that I was doing a sub 4. They said I set a new land speed record, and all the crew guys thought it was the greatest thing ever. But I came across, and I was like, do not ever touch anybody like that ever again. And all the crew members were like, that's not how this works. But as an actor and a performer, you have a level of authority and autonomy, right?
Sure.
But I never really gave that up. So there were times where I had to stand for people, and I never forget because they were like, you need to go to the other building, go back in your lab, and we'll come get you when we're ready. And it was really funny because I don't tell people what I do. Like I said to you, if I have to explain my resume, it's not relevant to you. So the producer came to me, and one of the executives came and said, hey, what you did today was completely unacceptable. And I said, just so we're clear, I said, I'm not sorry about what I said or what I did. I said, I want to be very clear. I said, this person's new in this business. This is your opportunity to get a control of this person. I said, what happened today is unacceptable. And if that person decided to sue, they have every right. And they would completely be right. I said, so I get it. You need to fire me to make a point or whatever you need to do. That's fine. But just understand that there is a certain way that people should treat each other in a professional environment. And he violated that. So when I leave, at least make it mean something. And I don't think the guy knew what to do with me because I didn't beg for my job and wasn't as apologetic as I probably, in his mind, should have been. Mm-hmm. He went back to the office. And I guess he started doing research on me or something. He went and Googled me or something because all of a sudden, at the end of the day, he's like, hey, I need to meet with you. He comes in and he's like, I need to meet with you. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be here all night till I was working around the clock trying to build stuff and make stuff possible. And he's like, okay, I'll come back after dinner or whatever. And he showed up when there was almost nobody. And he said, hey, he goes, tell me about your background. And I was like, damn. Now I'm the famous guy, right? Now I'm the actor. Now they're more hesitant to treat me the way that they would have treated somebody else. And it was a really eye-opening experience. And it made me very aware, right, of like the value of your voice, but also the perception of people opposing or imposing on you, right? And I was like, hey, you do what you got to do. I'm like, today was my last day. And he's like, well, about that. All of a sudden I was famous, right? And all of a sudden he was worried about firing me. And what was fascinating was the same guy who kicked the guy the next day came up to me and wanted to apologize to me. I was like, no, if you want to apologize to somebody, he's over there, right? And I didn't really kind of let it go. I was super respectful, and I continued to work there and did great work and actually built a lot of stuff. And at one point, that person had to go up in a lift to evaluate something. And he's like, can Fish take me up? And I was like, oh yeah, I'll go with you. I'm glad that you trust me, right? So we became really close, but I had to stand for something. The one thing I would tell you from growing up in this industry is I don't know how to not speak up for the things that are important. It's got me in trouble a few times in my life and my career. It's cost me some work. It's cost me some jobs. It's cost me a lot of money. As you know, we probably shouldn't get into that part.
Sure.
But.
And I think if you flip that, when you're acting or directing on set, how many times you got in trouble for moving a cable or doing something you're not supposed to?
I've been yelled at a number of times, but I would rather get in trouble for those things. Also, I've learned to be almost like accepting of that, right? But if there's a thing that's about to happen, I'm never going to let somebody fall off a ladder or have a cable wipe somebody out or have a bunch of things ruined when all I had to do is do a small thing. And the union has always been very accepting of me. The other part is I've worked in almost every department.
Sure.
So people really early on start to get the feel of like, oh, you know things about our department that other people don't know. It's one of the things I think makes me a really great director is, when I go to a production meeting, I know what it's like to be on the other side. Like, for example, if I'm going to pitch something from a prop standpoint, I make sure, I went into a meeting one time right before we did the production meeting, and I pitched this thing to the producer, and I just watched the prop person's face, like, be horrified of, like, I knew what he was doing. In his head, he's like, where am I going to find a purple one of those in 24 hours notice? This guy just threw me under the bus. And as soon as we were done with the meeting, I was like, by the way, the purple ones are on hold over at Ultima, and the blue ones are on hold over here, and there's orange ones. So whichever one they picked of these three choices, I already had them. I had sourced them the same as if I was a prop guy, because I was never going to throw that thing out and throw somebody under the bus. I offered solutions that I knew would work and that I could deliver and that I could help somebody else deliver. And I think that's an important part, is like understanding and respecting what other people do.
I think a good theme, if you want to reiterate, is because of your life, you have this wonderful cast, crew, cast.
Yeah.
That spectrum, I think, is a great through line. I think if you want to.
Yes.
Through this podcast, people are going to notice that you do a final run of questions.
Yes.
Before you get to that final run, you always ask if there was something that you could go back, a project you could go back to change. So let me ask you that question, but let me ask it in three ways. One, if there was a performance that you've done that you wish you could have changed or somehow altered, as a director, is there something that you wish you would have done differently, or if you'd have known later what you did? And the other one is, I guess, as a crew standpoint, did you ever, I don't know how to say it properly.
No, just say it.
No. Did you do something and you realize, oh man, I kind of messed that up. I wish I would have done this differently in that sense. So take that question that you normally ask people and give me the answer from your multi-hyphenate.
So I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to start with the crew one. I don't know why people do this, but I ran Socko cable for miles. I mean, I'm talking about hundreds of yards, like miles of Socko cable. And there's always the one person who decides they just want to plug into the multi-tap at the end and like charge their phone or do something, and they unplug something else. And miles away in Video Village, all of a sudden now something stops working and everyone is on the walkie and on the radio like what happened to blah, blah, blah. Until you've been the dude who had to crawl on your hands and knees for miles and trace Socko cable trying to sift through a nest of think of the worst combination of Christmas lights with a million extension cords all wrapped up into each other and then trying to unravel Christmas lights is the closest thing I can equate it to. I've done that more times than I can count, and I did one time disconnect something and it totally screwed up a shot. And I separated and I heard a bunch of stuff go, and you hear every once in a while the worst thing you can ever hear in an electrical department is if your power source shuts off out of safety and you're like, I knew better, right? People don't understand, but there's green, white, black, red, blue for the cables, and there's a specific order you have to put them in, take them out. And I would tell you the order, except when I do it in my head, I have to use an analogy that is not PG or camera safe, because that's how I was taught, so I would never forget. So I won't. But there's an order you have to put these things in. And if you do them wrong, you can fry stuff, and because the ground always has to be done, right? So there's a very important sequence in which you do things, and then there's lots of times you teach people and they just don't want to do them right, or they try to cut a corner, or they don't think it's that big a deal, and then all of a sudden sparks are flying or stuff is shorting out. And I've also taken a lot more blame in my career than most people, and this goes back to being an actor, is when I was growing up on Roseanne, the crew guys would play with me, but that meant whenever we broke a window or something bad happened, I had to take the blame because I couldn't be fired, and they all would have been.
Sure.
So I've spent my whole life taking the blame, and I don't regret that in any way, other than it was terrible when someone would come over and tell my dad, "Aren't you so proud of your son?" And all of a sudden at the end of the night, my dad would be like, "Michael, you're going to ride with me tonight instead of your mom." I was like, "Oh, it's I don't know what I'm in trouble for, but I'm just horrified. Makes me want to sweat right now." So things that I would go back to, it's mostly there are these little moments from a crew standpoint where you're like, "Ooh, I knew better," or I knew I should have waited. As an actor, 2 moments come to mind immediately that I wish I could have over. One of them was I hosted the Kids' Choice Awards, and Lacey Chabert was my co-host, who is one of the most beautiful human beings I've ever met on the planet. She was, and we were teenagers, and she was just so sweet and such a wonderful human being. And all my lines were to the dog from The Mask. It was the year The Mask came out. And look, Jim Carrey is iconically just unique as a comedian, right? Mm-hmm. And I had all these impersonations, and I was pretty good at impersonations. I had all these lines to the dog, right? And it was great. And I was going to kill it, and felt pretty good, and all right. And Lacey and I have all these things, and we do all these rehearsals, and I'm all righty then, and all these catchphrases from The Mask and all this stuff. Then the audience got there, and a few hundred kids in the seats. The dog did not want to come out.
Oh, no.
So I'm standing on stage. All my jokes are to a dog that's not here. And I'm and poor Lacey had to stand next to me while I died on stage. And that's a pretty horrific experience. And then, ironically, the summer before Roseanne sang the national anthem, I went to Cincinnati with the Symphony Pops Orchestra. And I was supposed to sing... Lisi Goranson, who plays Becky, and I sang Somewhere Out There, the American Five-O American Tale song, which is this squeaky little mouse singing about wanting to find home, and it's 2 people singing to each other, and you're a horrible singer when they come to you and say, "It's not that bad. If you're terrible, it's okay because you're just supposed to be cute." Which is really the polite way of saying you're about to die on stage and we all know it. And I had a whole orchestra, and I gutted it through that experience, but I think I'm still scarred because I don't sing in public since, and then I watched how bad singing in public can go. So if you ever offer me a job and singing is involved, there's a very good chance that there will be a lot of hesitation. I still probably will take it because I need the work, but as an actor, I don't want to sing. They say some people need a bucket to carry a tune. I need a backhoe and a dump truck and a whole choir for support, and preferably an orchestra and maybe some auto-tune. So if I could do those over as a director, I think as a director, the one thing, I don't really have a moment that I would do over. I actually have a moment that I just would like to go and experience again. Which is, there was a lot of pushback in my very first episode. If I could stand outside myself for the scene where DJ essentially gets written out of the show on The Conners, because directing that scene and acting in it was a gift in a sense that I didn't have to listen to a bunch of other people's harsh notes about it, because I set up the environment really well and it was a great face-off. I do wish I got to stand outside of it as a director and experience the joy of how good that scene went as a performer, right? To see if there was anything I would have done to heighten it, because I couldn't be that teammate for myself. And then the last episode I directed on The Conners, there's a moment where John Goodman, where James Pickett's Jr. Had a scene that just wasn't working. And John's like, let Michael show you. Let Fish walk you through this. Like, he'll help you make this work. To watch John Goodman get super excited about me as a director and champion me to another like legend, I didn't take the time to celebrate how beautiful that moment was, because I was so busy trying not to screw up the notes that I was then going to go give to Jim. And when I gave Jim, like, we walked through it and we just talked about it, and he expressed, and I was like, do this, don't worry, I got coverage here so you can really play in the space. Maybe your rhythm is like this. What do you think? And when that scene was over, as soon as I yelled cut, to have Jim yell out, oh my, like, that was amazing. It felt so much better. And then to watch those two legends be like, hey, he's good at this, isn't he? He's good at this. Wow, like, thank you. That's the moment where I was like, oh yeah, I can direct anywhere, right? Because those two guys are as good as it gets. And to have them trust you, to have earned the trust in that way, I was so busy just trying to make sure I didn't screw it up that I didn't fully enjoy that moment.
Yeah.
And when I look back now, like, that was a defining moment for me as a director, because it was like, look, these are two as good as they get. Like, I feel fantastic about where I'm at. There's always more to learn. There's always new tricks, and I'm always looking for more ways to make myself better. But it's really good when other people are like, I've seen a lot, you're good at this. Especially early on.
I think it's always tough for when you're in it to sometimes be able to sit back and bask in the sun, so to speak.
Yeah, and I'm not a compliment person. So like, I wasn't raised with a whole lot of compliments for those of you out there who also didn't grow up in a place where, like, I grew up in an environment where people told you what needed to improve, even on set and at home. So we were seeking perfection. There wasn't a lot of celebrating moments, right? I've had to learn to do that as we've gone, and I think there's a big part of that is part of this show, which is I love bringing people on and celebrating those moments, because a lot of times they haven't taken that time, and this becomes the space where people celebrate their moments or realize how much something meant to them.
Yeah. You just sparked something with me being a lawyer, or former, you as an actor. I've given plenty of advice to clients and they've never taken it. So I just don't, I just like, this is what I would do, but if you don't, whatever. So I think and then you get notes. Yeah. You've had to give notes, you take notes. So I think that there's, that to us, I think it works, because my idea might be great, but you might need to fix it a little bit. I don't care. If it's a good idea is a good idea, and whoever you need to do to fix it, to make it work in the scene or whatever the project part, there's no ego in it. And I think that that's something that comes across when people see you, that they look at you and are like, oh, this guy is who he says he is, or what I think he is from the social media standpoint and all of that.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the strengths that we have in the stuff that we build. So many people are so precious of their stuff that they would go to war over everything. We will stand for the things we believe in. We're not pushovers by any stretch of the imagination, but we're good teammates. Like, we love a good note, and we don't care where a good idea comes from. And I think that's one of the things that empowers collaboration with us is, I don't know, you and I both kind of take the stance of, like, if we have to explain something or pitch something to someone, if we can't sell it, then it's probably not there yet. Mm-hmm. And like, we're not overly sensitive about it. A lot of other people are a lot harder to work with. We celebrate kind of the collaborative part of this. And I'm like, that's what I want. I want to build sets where I want the production of what we do to match the beauty of what we're making. And I want production to be a joyful experience. There are going to be tough days. There are going to be setbacks. There are in every job. But when we do this business right, it's beautiful. And I think that's one of the things I think we do real well. Are we doing the final run?
Yeah, let's do these.
Okay, so I better preface this because people don't know.
Sure.
There's a portion of this final run. Inside the Actor Studio had a final run. Ours is a little different, but so there is some carryover comparative to that because I loved that show. But also these are very specific to who people are in our business, and I love watching people light up when they do them. So I haven't been on this side of the final run, so I am committed to the process I torture others with.
Okay. So what's the first thing you look at in a call sheet?
I look at the names. I always look at who's there, what we're doing structure-wise, because I have to come prepared, but I care about the names. I'm looking for people that I love who are on the list. I also am double-checking to make sure that I know everybody's name, because my expectation is when I walk through the door, I should know who everybody is and what they do.
I mean, that's great because you tell me your name and I will forget it within 0.3 seconds.
Well, I'll tell you, I tell people all the time, I'm bad at names in the beginning. The two places that doesn't really qualify is when I was a coach. As a coach, I can tell you kids' names from 30 years ago because I remember what we worked on or what needed to be fixed, right? Because it was part of being their teammate. And it's very much like that on set for me. Once I know what people do and I can associate like their life to them, because it's not just about like what do you do. I know what people want to be and I know what their family's like, and like we have direct connection. Once I have that, like I can tell you lists of people from 1988 that I worked with when I first started, and I can tell you the people who are no longer with us because they all mattered.
I'm horrible with names, and I always tell people, look, I may forget your name, but I'm pretty good at remembering faces into where they categorize, and I kind of I kind of remember faces to where I am. But I was a summer associate, so it was after my, second year of law school, I got a job at this law firm. And I know I'm horrible with names. So my bright idea was to write a description of everybody I met and put their name next to them so I could remember who they are based upon that. So it was easy if someone was wearing glasses or whatever. But for some reason, on half of my list, I was like blue tie, yellow tie. Of course they were going to change the next day, but I didn't even think about it because I'm so nervous about making sure I can remember people's names. So I've just got to a point where I'm like, you know what, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. I know who you are, kind of, you know what I mean, but it's so.
Now, I want to tell people, this is something funny about Michael and I, which is I'm terrible about actors' names. I know what people look like, I know what people do talent-wise, but when we go to cast people or people ask for comparatives, it's Michael who pulls the names and knows who every actor is and what projects they were on. Like, as much as he says that, Michael will keep track of like, oh, this person would be great for that role, or this, this sounds like somebody from this, and oh, this is the woman who would be great in that guy would be fantastic in this. And I have to I have to go look them up. And then I'm like, yeah, that's fantastic. I was like, that's exactly what the person I was picturing. But that is Michael's skill way more than it is mine.
And I don't want to sound weird, but it's probably because I haven't met them. Is why I can remember the name.
It's funny.
Yeah. All right. So what's the last thing you want to see on a call sheet?
Probably a replacement.
Okay.
Meaning somebody got fired yesterday.
That's
yesterday
not
was their last day.
I like that answer. I thought you were going to say something else.
What would you think I said?
I thought you were going to say night outside.
Oh, you know what? I'm the one person who, I just know I'm not supposed to write night outside and create that because of the budget thing.
Can you explain that to people?
Yeah, so in the budget scheme of things, exterior night, if you write it into a script, is thousands of dollars more than anything else because it means you're outdoors. It means it's nighttime. It means you have to light specifically. It means you need extra crew, extra stuff. Probably you're going to deal with weather, and time is going to be an issue, and it means the people around you, the people complain because if it's at night and you're shooting. So it is the nightmare thing. So we tell people all the time, don't write it, which is actually a really good guess. Actually, the only thing I dislike more, and this is going to sound really strange to people, the only thing I dislike more than a replacement, meaning someone left, final day.
Oh.
I love to work. So whenever it's wrap is written on the thing, it is heartbreaking for me. I go through a bit of like a withdrawal every time and like a like a grieving process. I love to celebrate that moment. I'm also the only actor who hates the sound of applause, because applause usually mean we're done. And I live and love the doing.
Well, having seen you on set several times, I guess you could always take the applause part knowing you're done. That just means that now you get to move over to shake hands with the fans, which you always do.
Yeah, I love that part. I just like the applause part. I know we're done. And even if it's just we're done for the week, right? Like, I love what we do. I love the doing. It's one of the things, like I said earlier, I just love being on set. And I think people rush in and out of great opportunities. I try to savor the moments.
So what is your favorite thing to see at craft services?
This is so funny because I ask this question all the time and people get all excited. And I almost don't care what's at craft services. I just want it to be fresh. My favorite thing to see is a really good craft service person. Like the person. Because they make the food for everybody else. And anybody who does that with love, it's that old saying that like an army marches on its stomach. The person who fills all the stomachs and does it well, I've watched people just make just miracles with like little to no budget. Those people impress me so much.
So there's nothing that you want to see. Is there something you don't want to see at craft services?
I don't eat condiments, so I hate when there's condiments always already on top of stuff. Nothing makes me more frustrated than I'm like, you did not have to put mustard and mayonnaise on every sandwich before you gave them to people, right? And especially if it's like they've been sitting there for a while, right? Like, let that be in. I'm probably other people are going to be on the opposite end of the spectrum, but because I don't eat condiments, anything you put them on, it means I'm not eating. Like, it means so the range of what I can eat just shrunk. There are certain things, everybody likes it a little different. Some people don't eat mayo, right? So don't put it on all of them. Or like some people are allergic to mustard. And maybe it's probably my coaching background where I've seen every allergy known to humanity.
Sure.
But I'm like, don't put that on there ahead of time. Let somebody add as much or as little as they want.
It's fair enough.
Yeah. Bugs. I don't want bugs. No bugs in my food.
Yeah, who does?
No, it's not extra protein. That's not how I'm counting that.
How do you define success?
I think it depends on what area of my life we're talking about. So this is a little bit of a longer answer. I'm always impressed by how other people truncate this. But professionally, success is treating people the way that I think people deserve to be treated and doing the kind of work that impacts people, that means something. And professionally, success is like people will remember how you treated them and how you made them feel. So I want people when they come to a set, one of the things that probably will surprise some people and not surprise others is maybe the highlight of my week is most of the time at the beginning and end of days, more often than not, people come and hug me. And I don't ever initiate hugs, but I actually welcome them most of the time with people I really know. So the fact that most of the time almost everybody I work with comes and hugs me, I think is a pretty good indication. On a personal level, success to me is going through life and understanding the pain and the betrayal, the rejection, the redirection without losing enthusiasm. And I think probably one of my greatest skills is that I still have kind of a childlike wonder. Someone once described me, a coworker described me one time as like, Michael's like a big puppy. He just shows up with his tail wagging and he doesn't fully get it, or he doesn't understand how many other people are out to like do negative things or even destroy him, was the quote. And I laughed because I'm like, actually I do understand exactly all of that. Do you know how hard it is to show up like a big puppy with your tail wagging and have joy knowing that other people want to destroy you? Do you know how strong you have to be inside to take all of that and still show up and love everyone that you meet? I take that with the utmost pride. So like on a personal level, like I want the people who live around me, who love me, who spend life with me, to see me walk through whatever it is with a level of enthusiasm and joy that's not based on the rest of the world around me. And then like from a psychological, like personal level, like success to me is I want to make people's lives a little brighter. I think it's the Emerson quote, which is like, to know one soul has breathed easier for you have been here is success. And I agree with that. I want people to breathe a little easier, feel a little safer, smile a little harder.
So your follow-up question is like, how are you doing? How do you measure to your definitions of success? But let me just put this in there. What I always hear you say and how you operate is kindness.
Yeah.
And the flip of your kindness, though, you always say it's a choice.
Yes, people mistake my kindness for weakness. And I'm okay with that in most scenarios. But I want people to understand emotional intelligence is a pendulum. So the greater the capacity to be loving and kind and be wonderful and caring, that also means that can swing in the other direction, right? So I'm not somebody's pushover. I will go to war if I need to. But I choose kind. I choose kind because I know what cruel looks like. Mm-hmm. And I think in a world where I think people are angry, and in a lot of ways rightfully so, with a lot of stuff going on in the world, choosing kind sometimes is a radical act of opposition, right? And I'm perfectly proud of the fact that in most scenarios I choose kind. If I was going to go back to my layers of success, I might be the first guest we ever have on the show who says, I don't think I've been successful yet. And there's a part of me that loves that. I live in a state of, I'm kind of insatiable a little bit, but I do it in the most beautifully, again, optimistic and kind of enthusiastic way, which is I want to be striving to be better all the time. So if I think I got there or I already had success, I might coast or be okay. I don't want to get to that point. I want to keep making people breathe easier. I want to keep doing bigger projects. Every time we build something, I feel like we have some of our best work in front of us, and when those projects come, they're going to allow me to just do bigger, kinder things. And that's what I want.
You're allowed to celebrate the little wins too. Okay?
I mean, just saying. I'm not. I mean, you can tell people I'm not I'm not a negative person.
No, I know.
But I do celebrate. I celebrate moments, right? So people will see this on some of my stuff. Is they'll see it says hug, because I write it sometimes on my podium. It's been on my hats and things like that when I was an athlete. Hug is hustle, unsatisfied, and gracious, right? I always want to be hustling, meaning I'm always working and building and doing. Unsatisfied, I think people hear that and think it's a negative or something's missing. It's not. It's just not sitting on what already was accomplished. Mm-hmm. And then gracious is a big word to me, because gracious and gratitude kind of go together. If you're gracious about what you've achieved, then you will keep doing it, and there's gratitude in that. Mm. So I have gratitude, but I hear you. I will celebrate more.
All right.
As my friend, I hear that. I'll receive that.
So what is the one thing you want on every set?
The thing I want most on every set is joy. Authentic laughter, right? I want great work that echoes through the halls and around the set and through the people. I want people to go home and say, I'm so happy I worked there. I want people to go home and say, you won't believe Fish showed up and celebrated me today, right? Or this project is so amazing, I can't wait to go to work tomorrow. I want that to permeate kind of our set. If I could put it on every set, that's what I would do.
Wow. And what is the one thing that you would eliminate from set? Condiments?
Condiments is a good no, because some of the people I love condiments.
Sure, yeah.
Present company included.
Hot sauce, why not?
Yeah. I never want to yuck anybody else's yum. Mm-hmm. That's the expression. The thing I would remove is abuse of power. I've seen so much abuse of power and the way people abuse each other in work environments, not just entertainment, but across the board. But on a set, it really gets in the way of great creative work, because what happens is people feel small, start to internalize, and then they start to shut down, and creativity shrinks. And in a realm where your creativity is the defining factor, you have to have a level of freedom and kind of peace and bravery. So when people abuse it, it creates chaos, and as if we didn't tell. I also don't put up with a lot of bullshit. So,
sure.
I have a tone for how I expect to carry myself and what I want other people to experience. And so there's a lot of times where I have to be the voice of dissension in that. And it's cost me work and it's cost me money, but I wouldn't change it.
Just because you were put through the ringer coming up doesn't mean you then should do it to the next person. I think that there's a cycle that people kind of are like, well, I mean, I had to do this or whatever, so it's your turn to have to do it. Mm-hmm. Makes no sense.
Well, you and I talk about this because in the legal community, coming up, there is a lot of that. And then in sports, we both played sports. Mm-hmm. There's that hazing culture of like, you're the new person. I never bought into any of that. I never bought into the like weird hierarchical, like abuse other people, like rite of passage thing. I'm like, if you hated that experience, why would you do it to anybody else? Like that cycle can stop with you as opposed to you becoming the continuation of it. And I think it's something that, you know, you and I strive in every project that we do. We don't have that because as leaders, we don't see a value in that, and we make sure people are valued for who they are. I used to tell people as a coach, right? You know, you abuse that freshman, for example, and you're like, oh, he's just a freshman, or oh, it's just a first year, oh, he's a new person. Yeah, but when we go out to competition or we go to war, nobody cares what year that person is. And if we broke them and made them think less of themselves or think, well, you're new, new's not an excuse for sucking, right? Like, sure. New's not an excuse. I don't think you could do the job, then you shouldn't be here. But if I have experience and can make you better at it, I better do it now, because when I need you is not the time for you to be wondering whether you have confidence or not. I don't want to be the reason you don't.
Yeah. What's the best gift you've gotten?
People. It's the people. Mm-hmm. It's, and not just the people on set. I think people don't, this show is designed to celebrate people on set. And a lot of them are people I work with. Some of the people on here I've never met before we meet and do this. And I love it that way because there's so much to learn and grow from people. But the audience matters. Like, I don't see a separation, especially doing live tapings, right? They're part of the process. And if you trust them properly as a writer, I think it's one of the things that's missing in comedy right now is we're not trusting the audience and the people who are a collective part of this process. I worked on shows that left a legacy, and I've protected that legacy for almost 40 years. It's been my job to go out and kind of uphold that. And it's because I believe the show belongs to everybody involved, and that includes all the people watching it. So maybe I just have a little more utilitarian, kind of egalitarian view on it. But the reality is we're equal partners in this, and I think people underestimate their value.
How do you want those that you worked with to remember you?
I want to be the most efficient, talented person who loved them the deepest. Some people might be more talented because there's always somebody. Somebody might be more professional, even though I strive in both of those areas. But I don't want anybody to do all those things. I want to be great at what I do, and then I want them to know that I loved them in a way that mattered. I want them to feel valued when they come through the door and when they leave. I never want somebody to look at a call sheet and see my name and be like, oh, Fish is here. Mm-hmm. I want people to look at the call sheet and be like, oh, I can't wait. Can't wait to see what he does. Can't wait to experience what he's going to share with me. And I know I'm going to be valued and loved.
Wow. So final question then, what is the legacy you want your loved ones to take from your life? You're not dying.
I'm not dying.
I got too much shit I need you to do.
Yeah, good. We have plans. Yes, my loved ones are my legacy. It's not really so much that I want them to take from my life. There's a part of me that wants them, I want them to run at things full speed with enthusiasm that no one else can steal from them. But what I really want is, my legacy should be how I make them feel. Should be that they believe in themselves. I am one of the few, I mean, you can attest to this, because this is when we get awkward in phone calls, is when I call you and tell you how much I love you or how proud of you I am, usually after something didn't go well, right? Like, sure. Usually when something fell apart, I try really hard to make sure that people know that they're valued. I have this framework in my life that I'm dying every day. And that might sound morbid to people, but it's actually a joyous thing, because I live every single day. We reduce people to dates and dashes. I want to leave people with like reverberations of feelings and love. I want people to remember my legacy is not me. My legacy is how I made people feel and what I empowered other people to do. I want that date and the dash not to be what they look at. I want them to feel something when they see my name, and for the work and the things I do across the board, I want people to have a reverberation of like love and excitement and joy, and for people to feel like, oh, he lit up my life a little bit, right? I would much prefer that at the end that people do a party. I don't need you to say nice things about me after I'm gone. I want you to say nice things about yourself. I want you to feel like you are all the kind of divinely beautiful things you already are that maybe often you kind of overlook. And I hope that I mirror those back and reverberate them back to you so you don't ever have to question or wonder.
We talked about you don't like titles.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's one word that you always capitalize.
Okay.
And it's dad.
Yes.
So explain that for a second, because I do have a follow-up.
Okay. Actually, I've started capitalizing a couple other words.
All right.
But you're right. In my life, dad has been kind of, I've always capitalized it. I capitalize it all the time. I think of all the roles I have in my life, it's the only one that I'm truly irreplaceable in. Mm-hmm. And it is the one that it is inherently my responsibility, partially because I chose that path. Those children didn't choose me. I chose them. I chose to bring them here. So I don't expect anything in return, but I do feel like I have a huge responsibility to impart and bless and promote and empower. I've started capitalizing the word actor.
Okay.
Which for a really long time, it's not the way the world and people around me ever saw me.
Sure.
But I do think there's kind of a reverence to what we do, because I've learned more and more I have to face all of the hard emotions that the rest of the world would rather run away from to do it well. And I think that's kind of become my specialty, because I think authenticity is my thing, and being willing to lean into the difficult conversations.
So are you going to capitalize Gramps or Grandpa?
I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be known as Grandpa, because I don't feel like I'm old enough to be Grandpa. For people who don't know, I just became Grandpa, and I'm about to become Grandpa again. Like, that window came really narrow, and a bunch of people at home were like, oh my God, you just made me feel older than I've ever felt in my whole life. But that's what happens when you start at 18 and you have babies, but when you're still a baby. I couldn't be Papa, because that was my grandfather, and so that still was associated. Grandpa, there's another Grandpa, and he really likes that title, and all the things, all the cute ones like Gramps and all that stuff, like Grampy, and none of that really fits me. So I think right now we've kind of settled on Saba, which is like Hebrew for Grandpa.
Okay.
But I'm looking for, like, so if people have recommendations, I am really open to finding something cool to use, because kind of like every other aspect of my life, I'm going to be a really good grandpa, but it doesn't have to look or be shaped quite the way everybody else defines it.
Sure. So
I'm looking for something that fits me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
If you can't tell, I'm a bit of a nonconformist. I'm going to ask you two quick questions. See, the funny part is we didn't know we were doing this final run, and I didn't know I was on the receiving end of them, but I'm going to return a little bit of this to you.
All right.
How do you define success, Michael?
I think it's just showing up every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Okay, based on your definition.
Oh, I mean, I'm still working on it. I mean, I show up when I'm supposed to, I guess.
Oh, I think this is for the world. The world is seeing. Michael just said something so valuable and so powerful, and then he's got to make a little bit of a joke, right? And you got to lighten it. I'll tell you, in the last few years, you have been the person who's shown up for me every day, and there have been times where I absolutely needed it and would not have made it without you.
Well, self-serving.
See?
There you go.
See?
Said it was coming. There it was.
Listen, this is how we diffuse. We diffuse like heavy moments with humor. It's one of our gifts. Okay, how do you want the people who work with you to remember you?
I mean, I guess the word that comes out the most, I guess, is just. So, whether it's something was good or bad or whatever, hopefully whatever it was, I did the right thing at the right time. And if I didn't, I'll own up to it. Maybe a little bit later.
What is the legacy you want your loved ones to take from your life? And you are also not allowed to die anytime soon because we have a lot of stuff to do.
Well, I got life insurance, so I guess I'm okay there. I guess that I did what I was supposed to and took care of what I needed to, I guess. I mean, that's a practical answer. Well, my practical anyway.
So much of Fish's call sheet came from the conversations that Michael and I have had about building stuff and what we wanted it to look like. And part of this is celebrating other people so that other people can be seen for what they build. In the last few years, I have gone back to work on a top show, been written off of one, had stood up for all the right things, not always gotten the right results, got divorced, been a single parent, lost a child. And in all of that, you were the person who kept me through it. So if I was going to talk about the call sheet, if I was going to lean on somebody, if there was a person I want on my call sheet, it's you. Because in a business where I haven't always gotten people who treated me the right way or where I have been betrayed, really I've been able to open up and trust in better and better ways, partially because you've stood through. And we've had some projects that got submarined by other people. And there are moments we bump heads, partially because I'm stubborn. So like and we know where I come from professionally, so I'm just going to say in a very honest sense,
it makes sense.
I might have a sharp tongue sometimes. But if ever there's a person I want next to me and the person that I want to see on the call sheet that I'm on, it's you. And I have been able to trust and be a better dad and a better partner and a better teammate and a better writer and a better collaborator because I had somebody where I didn't have to look over my shoulder for the first time in my life, where I didn't have to wonder if that person was going to follow through and do all the things you said you were going to do. And in my world, that's been rare. And the most beautiful part is I've been able to give my kids that. And my kids have watched me have somebody that way. And then they get an uncle that they can count on. And it's nice to be able to turn to my kids and say, call Uncle Michael and ask him, because he'd be a better choice in this case. As somebody who's usually had to do it alone, to be able to turn to somebody. So I wish that for everyone else. And what I'm going to do in this show is bring on the kind of people that you're going to watch, that you want to collaborate with and you want to trust. But you are the one I think of the most that I always want to see on my call sheet.
Well, I appreciate that. And it's just Uncle.
Just Uncle.
We don't need to put any qualifiers on that, okay? I'm old enough as it is.
Thanks, Michael.